Hello students, today we will do the literary term dramatic monologue. First see what is a monologue. Monologue is a lengthy speech by a single person. In a play, when a character utters a monologue, he expresses his or her private thoughts. It is called a soliloquy. So monologue means speech by a single person. There is not presence of any other person there. Examples are Christopher Marlowe's Dr. Faustus opens with a long expository soliloquy and it concludes with another which expresses his mental and emotional condition during his belated attempts to escape damnation. The best known of all dramatic soliloquies is Hamlet's speech in Shakespeare's play Hamlet, which begins with to be or not to be. So, what is a monologue? Uh, monologue is by a single person. It is a long speech by a single person. In this, character reveals his or her private thoughts, his or her own ideas or own thoughts. And these ideas or these thoughts are not audible to any other character in the play or any other character in a novel or in a story or in a play, but these thoughts are audible to audience. Audience get to know these thoughts. So monologue is a single person, a lengthy speech by a single person. And examples are Dr. Faustus soliloquy, and the best known example is Hamlet's speech in Shakespeare's play Hamlet. It begins with to be or not to be. Now, dramatic monologue. Dramatic monologue is not a component in a play like when we were doing monologue. Just now, when I explained you monologue, I said it is a lengthy speech by a single person in a play or in a novel, etc., or in a short story. But dramatic monologue is not a component in a play, but it is a lyric poem. It's a kind of a poem in which a single fictional or historical character can be fictional, can be created by a poet, or it can be a historical character, or it can be the character can be based on any historical situation or historical person. Other than the poet, character should not be a poet. Speaks to a silent audience of one or more persons. So in soliloquy or in monologue, we read that speech is not audible to other characters. There is not any presence of other characters, but audience or reader, they know what character is saying. But in dramatic monologue, audience is there. There can be one character or there can be more than one character, but those characters are silent, they don't say anything. So dramatic monologue, first thing, is not a component of a play, it is a lyric poem. Second thing, spoken by a single character. That character can be a fictional character or it can be a historical character. And the third thing is that character is not a poet, it is created character. And then fourth thing is audience is there. It can be silent. There can be a single character. There can be more than one character, but silent audience. Then, what is the purpose of dramatic monologue? Dramatic monologue reveals not the poet's own thoughts, but the mind of the impersonated character whose personality is revealed unwittingly. Dramatic monologue doesn't reveal the thoughts of the poet, but dramatic monologues reveals the thoughts of the character. So, dramatic monologue is not an autobiographical poem, but dramatic monologue reveals the thoughts of the created character, reveals the mind of the character. How dramatic monologue is different from a lyric? while the implied presence of an auditor distinguishes it from a soliloquy. Dramatic monologue is different from a lyric or from a soliloquy. Is in dramatic monologue there is a presence of silence, there is a presence of a silent auditor. In soliloquy there is no silent auditor, or there is no auditor at all. The term dramatic monologue was perfected by Robert Browning. His famous poems, My Last Touches, The Bishop Orders His Tomb, Andro del Sarto, and many other poems. What are the features of dramatic monologue? There are three main features of dramatic monologue. Number one, in dramatic monologue, there is a single person and who is patently not the poet. He utters a speech that makes up the whole of the poem, and this speech is made up in a specific situation at a critical moment. For example, in Robert Browning's poem "My Last Duchess," the Duke is negotiating with an emissary for a second wife, and Andrew del Sarta in the poem "The Bishop Orders His Tomb," uh, he once again attempts to believe his wife's lies. So, the first feature of dramatic monologue is there is a speech by a single person, but that single person should not be a poet, and there should be a specific situation and a critical moment. Feature number two, the person addresses and interacts with one or more people. As we read, that there should be silent audience. There should be one character or more than one character. But how do we come to know of auditor's presence? By the speech of the speaker. Or audience is silent, auditor is silence, but what they say and do we come to know from the speech of that single speaker, from the speech of the character. The third main principle of dramatic monologue is the main principle that controls the poet's formulation of what the lyric speaker says is to reveal to the reader in a way that enhances its interest, the speaker's temperament and character. The main motive of dramatic monologue is to reveal the temperament and character of speaker. So this is the third feature of dramatic monologue. So there are three main features of dramatic monologue. Number one, it would be uttered by a single speaker, and that single speaker would not be a single speaker would not be a poet. Number two, there would be a silent auditor, and how would we come to know the presence of silent auditor? From the clues of in the discourse of the single speaker. Number three, the main purpose of dramatic monologue is to reveal the temperament and character of the speaker. So there are three main features of dramatic monologue. Now, feature number 1 and feature number 3 are the necessary conditions of a dramatic monologue. So how can we analyze that this poem is a dramatic monologue? If feature number 1 is there and feature number 3 is there. If feature number 2 is missing, it is okay. But feature number 1 and feature number 3 are necessary conditions of the dramatic monologue, because the third feature that focuses on self-revelation. The character reveals himself from his dialogue. How would we come to know the temperament and character of the dialogue? From his own speech. So this is the feature that differentiates it from a dramatic lyric. Now see, Joan Donne's The Canonization and The Flea are dramatic lyrics, but they are not dramatic monologues. Why? Because it lacks only one feature, that is the poem, that lyric doesn't reveal the character and temperament of the main speaker. Feature number 1 is there, feature number 2 is there, but feature number 3 is missing. Feature number 1 is there, that is speaker is there. Feature number 2 is there, that is there is a silent auditor. But feature number 3, the most important feature, that character reveals himself through his dialogue. that his temperament and his character is revealed. This feature number 3 is missing in these two poems by Joan Donne. So these two poems are dramatic lyrics, but these two poems are not dramatic monologues. Same, Wordsworth's poem Tintern Abbey, written in 1798, is a dramatic lyric but is not a dramatic monologue. Now let's see how come. How let's see the features that are there. So this poem is spoken by a single person to a silent auditor in a specific situation at a significant moment in his life. But it is not a dramatic monologue. But why it is not a dramatic monologue? Because speaker is a poet. Speaker is not a character, because we are invited to identify the speaker with the poet himself. And the organizing principle and the focus of interest is not to reveal the temperament and character of the speaker, but just observation, memories, and thoughts of the poet. So, no character and temperament is not revealed. So, this is a dramatic lyric, this is not a dramatic monologue. Now, the main examples of dramatic monologues are Tennyson's Ulysses and other dramatic monologues by Hilda Doolittle, Amy Lowell, Robert Frost, E. A. Robinson, Ezra Pound, Robert Lowell, and other poets of 20th century. The best known example of dramatic monologue is T.S. Eliot's poem The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, written in 1915. You can consult these two books to read dramatic monologue in detail, that is A Glossary of Literary Terms by M.H. Abrams and the Concise Oxford Dictionary of Literary Terms. Thank you.